What's up, Psychedelic Investors? My name's James, and you're watching The Psychedelic Investor, your #1 news source for psychedelic stocks and everything MindMed. In this video, we're going to be entering the speculation zone to discuss the implications of several of MindMed's most recent moves. And this is actually the second video being released today. Earlier, we posted a video detailing the 3 most recent press releases distributed by MindMed, where we explained what each move meant. Well, actually, MindMed has since released another press release since the first video was filmed on the commencement of their LSD Neutraliser Phase 1 clinical trial. So we'll have a video on that in the coming days as well, but for now we're going to be dealing with the first 3. If you haven't seen that video yet and want to get a detailed explanation of each press release before watching this video speculating on the information, click the card above. All 3 moves are very important for the long-term strategy of MindMed, so all investors should have a solid foundation on what each of them means. And just as a very brief recap of each, first, we discussed how MindMed has started a Phase 1 clinical trial studying the effects of mixing LSD and MDMA. Second, we examined MindMed's changes in leadership, where J.R. Ron became the sole CEO, and a gentleman by the name of Dr. Glick left the board. And finally, we talked about MindMed's new partnership with the company called Mindshift Compounds AG, which is developing novel compounds that MindMed now has the exclusive rights to. Before hopping right into it, if you enjoy this episode and find it entertaining and informative, invest in the channel with your like and subscribe. Over time, you'll see your investment grow as we continue to bring you the information that you need to know before investing in the psychedelic medicines field. And if you're feeling extra generous, help us game the YouTube algorithm by leaving a comment telling us what you think MindMed's stock price will be in 5 years. Enjoy the episode. So jumping right in, wow. Over the past month, MindMed has just been pumping out the big news, and I wish I had more time to cover each news item individually and as they come out, but oh well, c'est la vie. Instead, you got one monster video going through all 3, and now is your last chance to go watch that video before seeing this one. I will put the link above once more. So, if you're still here, throw on your life jackets and grab the handrail because we are entering the speculation zone. Reminder that what is said in the speculation zone is just that, speculation. It is my opinions and schemes based on the information that I have given you in the previous video, but I could be wrong. If you have any information that counters what I say here, please let me know in the comments. It will help the whole community. So, to start, we are actually going to combine the first and last press releases that we discussed. MindMed starting a clinical trial studying the effects of MDMA mixed with LSD, and their partnership with Mindshift developing and deploying next-generation psychedelic compounds. We are doing this because I think there is lots of overlaps in the significance of each move and the implications for the long-term vision of MindMed. Between these 2 press releases, I believe that MindMed is making clear that their long-term goal is to move away from using pure LSD in therapy sessions, and instead move towards either mixing compounds or unique proprietary derivatives created in the lab. But wait! I can hear your minds collectively turning. MindMed's flagship program is using LSD-assisted psychotherapy to treat anxiety. Surely this is proof that what I'm saying is bonkers? Well, not really. I am now starting to believe that while the LSD to treat anxiety program is breakthrough and revolutionary, it is but the first step in the process that will ultimately result in these therapy sessions using a proprietary compound produced by MindMed. And though this is, of course, just speculation, I believe that in the last month MindMed has given us enough evidence that points us in this direction. So, where is the evidence for these claims? Well, let's go back to the wording of these press releases and re-examine what is said. In the first press release detailing their brand new trial studying the mixture of LSD and MDMA, the company wrote, "If administered in combination with LSD, MDMA may increase positive subjective drug effects, including positive mood and empathy, and reduce the negative emotions and anxiety that are sometimes associated with LSD, producing an overall more positive experience. Specifically, they hope that this combination can help offset some of the known potential unpleasant effects of LSD that occur in therapy or clinical settings. And this is important because while LSD therapy seems to be effective in most people, in some instances unpleasant effects can occur in therapy, causing distress to the subject through acute anxiety. So, here MindMed is making it extraordinarily clear that though LSD therapy has the potential to help many people, in some individuals it can cause strong negative emotions, and this includes anxiety.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
And this should ring true to anyone who has seen a large number of people take LSD. Though most people have a great time, some, unfortunately, do seem consumed by anxiety. So this does seem to be an issue that MindMed is facing, and they are looking for solutions to this, either through mixing LSD with MDMA, or through the creation of a new compound altogether, likely based off the LSD chemical structure. Which brings me to another point of speculation, and to be clear, this is extremely speculative and I may be wrong about this, but I'm still going to say it. When MindMed updated their investors deck in the new year, one of the changes they made was they removed the planned readout of Phase 2A clinical trial for Project Lucy, which is their program treating anxiety with LSD-assisted therapy. Though this process is still continuing as it should and will enter Phase 2B trials later this year, we are supposed to get some data in Q1 of 2021 of how well the Phase 2A trials went. This no longer appears to be the case. Now it seems that we will have to wait until the end of Phase 2B trials to get a better understanding of how effective these trials have been. And I suspect, given these recent comments that we just went through, that perhaps this cancelled readout, if it is indeed cancelled, I'm still trying to figure out if it's just been postponed or what, but perhaps this cancelled readout would have shown us that a non-insignificant amount of people did have issues with anxiety, and this is a problem that MindMed needs to solve. And by the way, MindMed made lots of changes to timelines for clinical trials in their updated investors deck, all of which are super important for investors to know about, so I'll throw a card above to our video detailing all the changes. It is a must watch. I'll also put a card at the end of the video to it so you can finish this episode and then go straight to that one. But getting back to the issue at hand, I believe that MindMed is making it clear to those of us listening that using pure LSD in therapy can carry with it issues, at least for a certain percentage of the population. One potential solution to this problem may be in mixing MDMA into the mix, as seen by MindMed's most recent Phase 1 clinical trial. I don't know if this will work or not, but it is not the only solution. Another is through chemically engineering unique compounds that keep the benefits we want, while getting rid of the negative side effects. And that brings us to MindMed's partnership with MindShift Compounds AG. As detailed in our previous video, and I'll put a card above that one last time so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about, but as detailed, MindMed recently gained the rights to MindShift's proprietary compounds, which MindShift's CEO called derivatives or analogs of known substances with psychedelic properties. These derivatives are enhanced versions of both the established and classic psychedelic compounds such as mescaline, psilocybin, DMT, and LSD. These compounds are designed and synthesized with expected ameliorated psychoactive properties and duration of effect profiles with potential added therapeutic benefits. So, from where I'm sitting in cold Montreal, it seems like perhaps this partnership may be, at least in part, about solving this issue when it comes to LSD. Which brings us back to the quote which finishes this press release by MindMed's president, Dr. Miri Wernley, which I believe solidifies my speculation that MindMed is planning on moving away from pure LSD in therapy, even in Project Lucy. In it, Dr. Wernley states that, quote-unquote, first-generation psychedelic molecules, like LSD, provide an obvious starting point for novel therapies such as psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. So here, she clearly calls LSD a starting point for psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. Not an end product, not the final result, but a starting point. She is heavily implying here, perhaps through the Mindshift partnership, but also more globally, that MindMed may not be planning on using regular LSD in therapy settings in programs like Lucy, but rather proprietary derivatives. Further down in this quote, she states, "We are developing a pipeline of novel, patentable psychedelic drug candidates that are specifically engineered to improve on first-generation psychedelic compounds, and that these drug candidates bear less regulatory risk in the overall mental health care system than working with natural compounds." So, yeah, to me at least, MindMed, through its president, Dr. Wernley, is telling us straight up here that the end goal is to not use LSD in therapy. Rather, they hope to develop their own compound that does not have the same negative effects as LSD. On top of this, these compounds will have the benefit of being proprietary, meaning that if they work, MindMed will have the exclusive rights to use or sell these compounds. This would solve another big problem for MindMed's business strategy. Right now, they are doing fantastic clinical work, but since they are working with substances in the public domain, like LSD, if they verify its effectiveness, any other company could piggyback off their hard work and jump into the game after MindMed put in all the effort. I talked about this more in detail in my video, why I'm more excited about 18-MC than LSD to treat anxiety, so you guys can go check that out for more context. But basically, here, if MindMed is able to use a compound that only they have the right to use and produce, then they could have a monopoly on the supply of the new drug, which would be very good for investors. Now, all of this is still in the very early stages. MindMed is still planning on continuing their trial testing LSD to treat anxiety, which again is set to enter phase 2B trials at the end of this year. But unfortunately, science moves slowly. So we're going to have to wait several years until we know for sure how effective all of these different chemicals are in treating ailments like anxiety. But what is very exciting is that MindMed is testing different variations at the same time to discover what works best. And here, I just want to be clear, I don't think that MindMed is saying LSD therapy doesn't work, only that it is not perfect and there are still problems to overcome. And is encountering problems a bad thing? No, of course not. Every revolution or paradigm shift will carry with it hiccups and problems to overcome. It is how we respond to these issues that will define how successful the transition to a new form of mental health care will be. We, both as investors and as spectators hoping that science can solve these difficult problems, should expect this not to be smooth sailing 100% of the time. LSD therapy seems to work well for most people, but in some causes acute anxiety. Great. We solved one problem which caused another issue to solve. And when we solve this issue, we will probably have even more problems after that. What is important is that we keep evolving and getting back up after each setback.
Why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Anyone who has been invested in Tesla for the last few years will recognize this pattern. Solving hard problems often leads to new hard problems to solve, but in the end it will be worth it. And one last thing I want to say on this topic is I really like how MindMed apparently sees this problem and is testing concurrently several different solutions to it. Perhaps the solution to anxiety that some people encounter while on LSD is to mix in some MDMA. Or perhaps it's to create an analog of LSD that is chemically engineered to work better. Or maybe it's to have a neutralizing technology which will end a bad trip for the unlucky few who suffer from them. And again, on the day of filming this episode, MindMed has announced that they are beginning their phase 1 trial to test their LSD Neutraliser, so expect another video on that soon. And if you can't wait for that, we already made an episode entitled Why MindMed's LSD Neutraliser is Genius, in which we discuss all the potential benefits of this technology. So you can go check that out to scratch your psychedelic investor addiction. But getting back to the point at hand, testing multiple solutions to a problem at the same time is exciting to watch, and it adds to my conviction level that MindMed is the leader in this psychedelic medicines field. And finally, we can speculate a little bit on MindMed's Nasdaq Uplisting, which they mentioned in their press release detailing the changes in their leadership structure. In this press release, when discussing who the retiring Dr. Glick will be replaced by on the board of directors, MindMed wrote, "Dr. Glick's retirement will be filled by the board after completing an extensive search and interview process for suitable candidates and as required as part of the Nasdaq uplisting application. As I said in the last video, the Nasdaq now has a diversity requirement for the boards of companies being accepted into it, which means that the board of any company being considered would have to have adequate female and minority representation. They already have women on the board, but based on this photo, I am not sure if they would meet a racial diversity requirement. So if this is the case, then once MindMed finds a competent new addition to the board who also happens to help MindMed meet the Nasdaq diversity requirements, they should be that much closer to being accepted. I know that this is the moment that so many investors are waiting for, but I will again preach patience. Obviously, the primary objective for this hire will be competency and adding to their talent. Any diversity requirement will be secondary. And even if they meet this requirement, there is no guarantee that an uplisting will quickly follow it. Perhaps we'll get an answer any week now. Or maybe it will keep getting pushed back, month after month, year after year. Again, us long-term investors shouldn't care too much about this. All that matters for the success of our investments is whether or not MindMed's medicines work, not what month or year they get accepted into the Nasdaq. If you're still watching this video, welcome to the end of the episode club. It is your opinions that I care the most about. So please tell us down in the comments what you think of the Nasdaq's diversity requirements. Do you think they are necessary to help move us to a better society? Or is it a virtue-signaling bureaucratic move that will not result in better outcomes? I look forward to reading your opinions. Oh, and as long as you're still here, why not follow us on Facebook and Instagram so that you never miss an update? There, we discuss articles and events that happen in the psychedelic medicine space that we don't have time to make videos about. Alright, psychedelic investors, that's all for today. I'm James, signing out. I'll see you next time.